The Lost Civilization: How Atlantis Became Humanity's Greatest Mystery. For centuries, explorers, scholars, and dreamers have chased a single question. What if the greatest civilization in human history vanished in a single night and left behind clues scattered across the world, waiting for us to uncover them? This is the story of Atlantis, the civilization that rose beyond imagination, disappeared beyond logic, and became the most enduring mystery of all time. Long before modern nations, satellites, or global maps, ancient storytellers whispered of a mighty empire across the ocean, a land of gleaming towers, advanced science, and people who mastered knowledge that even today feels futuristic. They called it Atlantis, a name that would echo through millennia, sparking myths, controversies, and ambitious expeditions. But the origin of this legendary tale was far more grounded, historical, and complex than most people know. The earliest and most credible reference to Atlantis came from the Greek philosopher Plato, who wrote about it around 360 BCE in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias. He described a civilization so magnificent, so technologically advanced, so politically powerful that even Egypt, one of Earth's oldest cultures, was stunned by it. According to Plato, Atlantis existed 9,000 years before his own time, placing it well before the rise of known ancient societies. Plato did not describe Atlantis as fantasy. He presented it as a historical account, passed down from the Egyptian priests to the Greek lawgiver Solon, then to Plato's family, and finally written into history. For the modern world, this chain of transmission became the first serious spark of belief that Atlantis might have been real. But what made Atlantis so extraordinary? Plato described an empire built on a series of concentric rings, land and water, connected by bridges, canals, and a grand harbor. The central island held a temple covered in silver, gold, and precious stones. The Atlanteans were said to have mastered navigation, irrigation, architecture, metallurgy, and mathematics at a level far ahead of their time. Their navy was unmatched. Their capital shimmered with towers, gardens, and palaces. Some scholars claim the society thrived on renewable energy-like systems, tapping into natural geothermal forces or even mysterious crystal technologies. But the greatest shock came from Plato's claim that Atlantis was larger than Libya and Asia Minor combined, suggesting a vast landmass that could have influenced human history on a global scale. What caused its downfall? Plato wrote that the Atlanteans grew greedy, corrupt, and power-hungry. They sought to dominate neighboring regions and challenge Athens itself. According to his story, the gods punished Atlantis for losing its moral way. Then, in a single destructive night, earthquakes and floods swallowed the mighty empire beneath the sea, erasing an entire civilization so quickly that no physical traces remained. For centuries, people dismissed this story as a philosophical metaphor, an allegory about the dangers of human pride. But later discoveries began to change everything. In the 19th and 20th centuries, archaeologists uncovered evidence of advanced ancient cultures that rose and fell with astonishing speed. The Minoans on the island of Crete, whose magnificent palaces and art resembled Plato's descriptions. The Sumerians, who appeared suddenly with writing, calendars, and urban planning. Ancient structures underwater near Japan's Yonaguni, India's Gulf of Cambay, and Bimini Road in the Bahamas. These findings fueled new theories that a forgotten parent civilization might have once existed and shared knowledge across continents. Then came one of the most compelling clues: ancient maps. In 1513, cartographer Piri Reis created a map depicting the coast of Antarctica, centuries before the continent was officially discovered. Even more shocking, it appeared to show Antarctica without ice, suggesting the original source map was made thousands of years earlier by an advanced culture capable of global exploration. Many researchers began linking such maps to the possibility of Atlantean knowledge that survived through fragmented channels. The Atlantic Ocean, of course, became the most popular location theory. Explorers proposed the Azores, Canary Islands, and Madeira as remnants of a once larger landmass. Each place had legends of ancient people who mysteriously vanished. Others looked to the Mediterranean. The volcanic destruction of Santorini, Thera, around 1600 BCE, created a catastrophic tsunami that devastated nearby civilizations. The explosion was one of the largest in recorded history, an event powerful enough to inspire legends of sinking islands. Meanwhile, some scholars believed Plato's Atlantic referred to the Atlantic Sea that surrounded the Americas. They pointed to similarities between Atlantean architecture and structures found in ancient Mesoamerican ruins. Even the Mayans and Aztecs had myths of lost islands and sky-born visitors who taught mathematics and astronomy. But for all these theories, one crucial question remained. Why has no undeniable physical evidence of Atlantis been found? The answer may lie beneath the ocean itself. According to modern geology, sea levels rose dramatically at the end of the last ice age, flooding vast coastal areas. If Atlantis was a Bronze Age coastal civilization, or even one predating known history, its ruins could easily lie under hundreds of feet of water, covered by sediment, coral, and time. Still, the greatest source of the Atlantis mystery comes from how perfectly the story sits between myth and science. Every generation interprets Atlantis differently. For scientists, it represents the possibility of forgotten civilizations. For historians, it is a cautionary tale about human arrogance. For explorers, it is the ultimate treasure hunt. For ordinary people, it is the dream that somewhere, hidden from the modern world, lies proof of an extraordinary chapter of human history. In recent decades, new technologies such as LiDAR scanning, deep-sea mapping, and satellite archaeology have reignited interest. Teams have discovered submerged pyramids, underwater roads, and ancient structures that challenge our timeline of human development. While none have been definitively linked to Atlantis, they prove that much of Earth's ancient past remains unexplored. Today, Atlantis stands not only as a lost civilization, but as a symbol of the greatest mystery of our origins. Whether real or mythologized, its story continues to inspire scientists, filmmakers, writers, and adventurers. U.S. audiences in particular remain captivated by the idea that our planet holds secrets older than recorded history, secrets that could rewrite everything we know. The legend of Atlantis thrived for more than 2,300 years, not because it offered answers, but because it asked the most thrilling question of all. Could an advanced civilization have risen, achieved wonders beyond imagination, and vanished without leaving a trace? Perhaps the truth of Atlantis is not buried in the ocean, but hidden in the forgotten corners of our past, waiting for the right discovery, the right expedition, or the right moment when history finally reveals its secret. Until then, Atlantis remains humanity's greatest unsolved puzzle, a reminder that the world we know is only a fraction of the world that once existed. A hidden archive beneath the sands of time. Imagine a secret chamber, buried so deep beneath the desert that not even the greatest empires knew it existed. An archive whispered about in forgotten scrolls, guarded by shifting sands, and believed to hold the lost knowledge of a vanished civilization. For centuries, explorers searched for it. Many disappeared. A few returned with tales so extraordinary that scholars dismissed them as myth. Yet what if this ancient archive was real and still waiting beneath the sands of time? In the heart of the world's ancient deserts, where winds carve dunes into towering waves and sunlight blazes like molten gold, stories persisted of a hidden underground library older than Egypt, older than Sumer, even older than the first cities of humanity. Nomadic tribes spoke of the chamber of eternal memory, a vault supposedly built by a civilization so advanced that their archives contained maps of lost continents, mathematical codes, and prophecies written in symbols no one alive could decipher. For thousands of years, these legends lingered like shadows, never fully believed, yet never entirely forgotten. The earliest written reference appeared in a fragment of a papyrus found near the Nile Delta. The text described a buried house of knowledge built by the people of the sea, a mysterious group that modern archaeologists still struggled to identify. The papyrus mentioned a corridor stretching for miles beneath the desert, lit by stones that glowed without fire. It spoke of rooms filled with tablets made of a metal lighter than feather but stronger than bronze. Most scholars dismissed this as mythological exaggeration, yet the reference refused to fade from historical memory. Centuries later, during the reign of the early Egyptian pharaohs, royal priests recorded that travelers from the west claimed to have seen massive stone vents in the middle of the Sahara, vents that supposedly released cool air from deep underground. Pharaoh sent expeditions to investigate, but only a few travelers returned. They reported nothing but endless dunes and shifting mirages. Still, whispers grew that something ancient was buried beneath the sand. Thousands of years passed. Then, in the late 1800s, European explorers seeking trade routes and archaeological treasures began hearing strange stories from Bedouin caravans. The tribes spoke of earthquakes revealing fragments of buried walls, pillars carved with symbols unseen anywhere else, and stone stairs disappearing into the earth before being swallowed again by the desert winds. They warned the explorers, "The desert remembers what it hides." Most explorers ignored these tales until one artifact changed everything. In 1902, a French geologist named Etienne Lorraine unearthed a metal plaque near the borders of Libya. The plaque was unlike anything recorded in ancient African or Mediterranean cultures. Its metallic composition was mysterious. It resisted corrosion, felt warm to the touch, and displayed engraved lines arranged like star charts. Some believed it showed constellations. Others argued it was a map of underground tunnels. But one detail sent shockwaves through the academic world. The plaque referenced the Great Archive beneath the sands. Although the translation was incomplete, the name matched older legends perfectly. A new wave of excitement spread across archaeological circles. Suddenly, expeditions were organized, maps redrawn, and ancient manuscripts re-examined. By the early 20th century, the desert became a battleground of discovery. Teams from Britain, France, Italy, and America set out to find the long-buried archive. They used then-modern tools, early ground-sounding equipment, primitive aeroplanes for aerial photography, and painstaking excavation techniques. But the desert refused to yield its secret. Entire camps were swallowed by sandstorms. Some expeditions vanished altogether. Others returned with mysterious stories,
dead straight lines running beneath the dunes, stone platforms revealed after storms, and chambers that seemed to collapse moments after being uncovered. Despite these setbacks, one discovery changed everything. In 1934, American archaeologist Dr. Henry Caldwell unearthed the Gate Slab, a massive rectangular stone half buried in the Sahara near the Tassili Plateau. The slab was carved with intricate spirals, interlocking triangles, and symbols resembling a hybrid of Egyptian hieroglyphics and Proto-Sumerian script. But one detail sent shockwaves through the academic world. The slab was carved with intricate spirals, interlocking triangles, and symbols resembling a hybrid of Egyptian hieroglyphics and Proto-Sumerian script. But at the bottom was a line of writing in an unknown alphabet, smooth, sharp, and impossibly precise, as though cut with tools more advanced than bronze or iron. Scholars struggled for months to decode it. Finally, a team of linguists proposed a translation. Beneath the sands lies the memory of the world. To the academic community, this line ignited both fascination and skepticism. Some believed Caldwell had stumbled upon the entrance to the legendary archive. Others argued the slab was merely ceremonial or symbolic. Funding for continued research stalled due to political tensions before World War II. After the war ended, the quest resumed, but this time with greater technology. By the 1960s, satellite imagery revealed strange geometric anomalies beneath the surface. Perfectly straight lines extended for miles, too straight to be natural. Some intersected at right angles, forming what appeared to be an enormous underground grid. American researchers speculated these were remnants of ancient irrigation systems or forgotten settlements. But the pattern was too complex, too deliberate, too massive. Theories exploded everywhere. An ancient scientific institution? A prehistoric observatory? A library built by a civilization lost before recorded history? Or even a remnant of the rumored Atlantean diaspora? Yet no one had physical access to the structures. Everything remained buried deep. Still, the discovery reignited global interest. Modern archaeologists equipped with drones, heat-sensing radars, and advanced satellite scans made breakthrough after breakthrough through the 2000s and 2010s. They identified massive rectangular shapes buried beneath dunes in multiple desert regions, from Egypt's western desert to the Sahara near Algeria and Sudan. As data accumulated, a striking pattern emerged. The buried structures aligned with ancient star maps. Certain corridors pointed towards Sirius, Orion, and the Pleiades, celestial formations deeply significant in Egyptian, Sumerian, and pre-dynastic mythologies. Some researchers proposed that the builders of the archive were a civilization obsessed with astronomy and preservation of knowledge. What knowledge? That was the question haunting everyone. Some believed the archive held records of prehistoric climate cycles, great floods, or migrations that shaped early humanity. Others speculated it contained mathematical texts, engineering plans, or star charts older than any known civilization. A few theorists argued it preserved the scientific achievements of a forgotten advanced culture, perhaps the very people who inspired the legend of Atlantis.
Every fragment collected supported the idea that the archive was designed to survive cataclysmic events. Massive stone chambers, metallic alloys resistant to corrosion, ventilation systems that worked without mechanical parts, even rumors of artificial light sources reported in ancient texts. The archive wasn't just hidden, it was engineered to endure. Today, the race to uncover it continues. Advances in subsurface mapping, laser scanning, and robotic drilling inch researchers closer each year. Several chambers have been partially visualized, though not yet opened. Archaeologists believe they are on the threshold of one of the greatest discoveries in human history. But the desert remains a silent guardian. Beneath its rolling dunes, beneath layers of stone and forgotten centuries, lies a treasure, not of gold or jewels, but of knowledge. A time capsule preserved by an unknown civilization that may have risen and fallen long before our oldest empires began. The story of the hidden archive is far from over. For some, it is proof of humanity's long-lost past. For others, it is evidence that history is far older and far more complex than we ever imagined. And for modern explorers, it is a reminder that the sands of time do not erase everything. Some secrets simply wait in silence until the world is finally ready to uncover them.
Scholars who claimed the library stored Atlantean wisdom. What if some of the world's greatest scholars secretly believed that an ancient library buried beneath sand, stone, and forgotten centuries held the last surviving knowledge of Atlantis? And what if their claims, dismissed for centuries, were based on clues hidden in manuscripts, maps, and discoveries too advanced for their time? For thousands of years, legends of a lost archive, an underground library said to preserve the wisdom of a vanished civilization, circulated among explorers, priests, and historians. But only a handful of scholars dared to link this archive with the greatest mystery of all, Atlantis, the mythical city described by Plato as an advanced empire that sunk beneath the sea in a single night. Their theories were bold, controversial, and often career-ending. Yet each scholar left behind fragments of research that seemed to point to the same conclusion. The ancient library existed, and its contents were more extraordinary than the world understood. The first scholar to publicly connect the library with Atlantean knowledge was Crantor of Soli, a Greek philosopher from the 4th century BCE. Crantor traveled to Egypt to verify Plato's story. It was there, in the sacred city of Sais, that Egyptian priests showed him inscriptions describing a great island empire destroyed by floods. They told him that survivors fled across the world and carried with them scrolls of metal, records of their science and astronomy. Crantor returned to Greece convinced that the library described by the priests was the same secret archive that held Atlantean wisdom. His findings were so shocking that later philosophers either ignored them or mentioned them only in whispers. Centuries passed before another scholar emerged with evidence. Plutarch, the famous historian, wrote about priests who guarded forbidden texts describing a people who mastered the oceans and mapped the heavens long before the rise of Egypt. According to Plutarch, these texts were stored in a vault so old that even the priests themselves no longer knew who built it. Some symbols were unreadable, belonging to a forgotten language. Though Plutarch never used the word Atlantis, modern researchers believe he was describing the same archive. During the Middle Ages, the idea resurfaced through Arab scholars who preserved ancient Greek and Egyptian knowledge. One such scholar, al-Masudi, often called the Herodotus of the Arabs, recorded stories of metal books hidden beneath vast ruins swallowed by the desert. He noted that the people who built those structures possessed mathematics and astronomical knowledge that surpassed early civilizations. He speculated they were a lost people of the Western Sea, a possible reference to Atlantean survivors.
But it wasn't until the Renaissance that the theory exploded into bold new territory. In the 15th century, Italian geographer Fra Mauro drew a world map astonishingly accurate for his time. On its southern edge, he described a sunken landmass beneath the Atlantic and referenced ancient mariners whose records are kept in secret. Historians now believe Mauro encountered scrolls or maps preserved from older civilizations, possibly copies of the legendary Atlantean archives. At the same time, explorers brought back strange artifacts, bronze discs engraved with unknown symbols, stones that acted like compasses, and fragments of texts that seemed older than human writing. These discoveries inspired the era's most daring scholar, Athanasius Kircher, a Jesuit polymath often considered the father of modern Egyptology. Kircher obtained a mysterious manuscript from Alexandria containing diagrams of concentric circles, canals, and a huge temple at the center. He believed it depicted the capital of Atlantis. When Kircher published this diagram in 1665, he claimed it came from an archive hidden in the sands, a record left behind by survivors who fled to North Africa after Atlantis sank. Many dismissed Kircher as imaginative, but his map of Atlantis looked strikingly similar to geological patterns confirmed centuries later. By the 19th century, interest surged again. The discovery of ancient cities in Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the Indus Valley, civilizations once believed mythical, forced scholars to rethink what lost truly meant. Among them was American congressman turned scholar Ignatius Donnelly, who dedicated his life to proving Atlantis real. Donnelly argued that the underground library described in ancient texts was the key. He believed Atlantean refugees carried fragments of their knowledge to Egypt, Mesoamerica, and the Mediterranean. He collected stories of hidden chambers beneath the Sphinx, under the Sahara, and inside crumbling ruins across North Africa, structures all believed to house the oldest records of mankind. Donnelly may have lacked modern tools, but many of his theories have since been supported by new archaeological evidence, submerged cities, ancient star maps, and inexplicable engineering feats. Then came the 20th century. Two scholars, separated by continents, independently revived the claim. In 1923, British archaeologist Gerald Massey wrote that an ancient master archive once existed beneath Egypt, storing wisdom rescued from a sunken homeland. He argued that similarities in mythologies from distant cultures, flood stories, sky gods, and sacred geometry were evidence of a shared origin, Atlantean knowledge preserved in one secret library. Meanwhile, in America, psychic researcher Edgar Cayce made headlines with his claim that survivors of Atlantis built a vast archive known as the Hall of Records, hidden beneath the desert near the Great Sphinx. Cayce described metallic tablets, astronomical data, and history stretching back tens of thousands of years. Though controversial, his descriptions echoed ancient texts remarkably well. For decades, archaeologists searched beneath the sands of Egypt using seismic tools, ground-penetrating radar, and satellite imagery. Multiple anomalies were found under the Giza Plateau, rectangular cavities and corridors, but political restrictions prevented deeper excavation. Some researchers believe these chambers correspond exactly to the legendary archive. What makes these scholars' claims even more compelling is how closely they match findings across the globe. In 2001, underwater scans off the coast of India revealed a sunken city 9,000 years old, matching Plato's timeline for Atlantis. Laser mapping in the Amazon uncovered geometric city grids unknown to modern history. And in the Sahara, scientists identified vast underground structures that had been hidden for millennia. Many of these discoveries aligned with descriptions left by historical scholars who spoke of an archive storing lost knowledge. Today's researchers are more cautious, but new technology has changed everything. LiDAR, satellite archaeology, and deep Earth imaging are uncovering patterns that match descriptions left by historical scholars. Buried networks of tunnels, massive chambers, symbols older than known writing, traces of metallurgy thousands of years ahead of its time. Was this Atlantean knowledge? If the scholars are correct, then the ancient library was not simply a storage room for scrolls. It was a vault built to preserve the achievements of a civilization wiped out by catastrophe. A civilization whose survivors scattered across the world, seeding early empires with fragments of their wisdom, astronomy, architecture, navigation, mathematics. History remembers these scholars as dreamers, rebels, or fringe thinkers. But piece by piece, the world they envisioned is coming into focus. Their claims may no longer belong to myth. They may be the first clues to the greatest archaeological discovery in human history. Somewhere beneath the shifting sands, beneath layers of forgotten stone, an ancient library may still be waiting. A vault built to survive disaster. A memory of a lost world. A final message from Atlantis itself. And if the scholars were right, then the greatest chapter of human history has yet to be uncovered.
Forbidden scrolls. Technologies far beyond ancient era. Hook. What if ancient scrolls, buried for thousands of years, described machines, energy sources, and scientific principles so advanced that modern experts refuse to believe they existed? And what if those scrolls were not myths, but the last surviving blueprints of a lost civilization far ahead of its time? Deep beneath the shifting sands, inside the rumored ancient archive built before the dawn of known history, scholars claimed that a collection of forbidden scrolls once existed. These scrolls were said to hold the final traces of a forgotten world, knowledge rescued from a catastrophe and preserved for a future generation that might one day understand it. Some believed the writings came from the survivors of Atlantis. Others argued they were remnants of a prehistoric scientific culture erased by natural disaster. Whatever their origins, the contents of the scrolls were unlike anything the ancient world was prepared to handle. The earliest reference to the forbidden scrolls came from a Greek traveler named Herodotus around the 5th century BCE. He wrote of desert priests guarding metal leaves, engraved with the secrets of the sky, warnings about forces that could crack mountains, and formulas describing energy that moved like the breath of the sun. Though most of his writings were dismissed as exaggerations, later discoveries made scholars revisit his accounts with new respect. In the 3rd century BCE, an Egyptian priest named Panahesi recorded that the scrolls were written in 3 layers, one for ordinary readers, one for the initiated, and a third encoded in a mathematical language so advanced that even the priests considered it divine. Panahesi claimed the scrolls described machines powered by Earth itself, light that burned without fire, and vessels capable of crossing oceans guided by the stars. Historians later dismissed his testimony as myth, until fragments of similar descriptions were found in the library of Ashurbanipal and in early Sumerian tablets. The parallels were too precise to ignore. Yet the most extraordinary claims emerged during the Roman era. A Roman engineer named Marcus Varro reportedly viewed 2 of the forbidden scrolls during a diplomatic visit to North Africa. According to his letters, one scroll described a device using flowing water and magnet stone to generate continuous motion,
while the other outlined a method to produce heat using buried crystal rods aligned with the sun. Varro tried to replicate one design, but abandoned the attempt after his workshop mysteriously burned down. He wrote, "The knowledge is real, but it belongs to a world older and more dangerous than ours." Centuries later, Arab scholars encountered similar scrolls during their explorations of Egypt's hidden chambers. The polymath Ibn Washia wrote of papers containing coded chemical formulas, descriptions of transparent glass stronger than iron, and references to sky boats used by ancient rulers. He insisted these texts came from a civilization older than Babylon, and that many scrolls were intentionally hidden to prevent misuse. His warnings foreshadowed a pattern. Each era that rediscovered fragments of the forbidden scrolls eventually buried them again. During the 12th century, the Spanish scholar Alfonso El Savio came across mysterious diagrams while studying astronomical manuscripts from North Africa. Some diagrams showed complex gears, lenses, and antenna-like structures. Alfonso believed they were connected to a forgotten technology that mapped the heavens using mechanical instruments, not unlike early telescopes, but centuries older. Fearing the Church's reaction, he secretly copied the diagrams and locked them in his private archives. Most modern historians assumed these scrolls were medieval fabrications, until archaeologists in the 20th century uncovered artifacts that seemed to echo the ancient descriptions. In 1901, divers discovered the Antikythera mechanism, an ancient Greek device with complex gears capable of predicting planetary movements. It stunned scientists. If such technology existed, what else might ancient civilizations have been capable of? In 1936, a mysterious Baghdad battery was found, suggesting the ancient world may have experimented with electricity. And in 1961, fragments of a metal said to resist corrosion for thousands of years were uncovered near the ruins of a desert temple, matching descriptions found in Forbidden Scroll accounts. These discoveries reignited interest in the lost technologies. By the mid-20th century, scholars began to see a pattern. The scrolls described energy sources derived from geomagnetic fields, light produced via crystal refraction, machines using hydraulic pressure far beyond ancient engineering, metal alloys unknown to classical metallurgy, mirrors that allowed long-distance communication, maps of coastlines that predated recorded navigation. Some descriptions even hinted at early forms of wireless transmission or energy conduction, concepts far ahead of their time. But the most astonishing references were those describing sky vehicles that sailed not through air, but along currents of light. These passages were often dismissed as metaphor, until modern physicists noted their strange resemblance to concepts involving solar radiation pressure. Many researchers concluded that whoever wrote the scrolls possessed not just advanced engineering, but extraordinary scientific insight. But where were these scrolls now? Most historians believe the majority of them were lost in natural disasters, burned during imperial wars, or sealed away beneath collapsed chambers. Some may lie undiscovered in private collections, mislabeled as medieval manuscripts. Others might remain buried within the hidden archive beneath the sands. In the early 2000s, satellite scans revealed enormous subterranean structures beneath the desert, corridors, chambers, and possible vaults. Among these were rectangular spaces that matched ancient descriptions of rooms lined with metal shelves. Though excavation has been limited, many archaeologists believe these could be the resting place of the Forbidden Scrolls. If recovered, the scrolls might reveal technologies capable of reshaping modern science, energy systems more sustainable than anything we use today, methods of construction that surpass current engineering, or knowledge of ancient astronomy that challenges our timeline of human development. For now, they remain part of a puzzle scattered across centuries, fragments of a world erased by time but not forgotten. Each discovery, each artifact, each ancient testimony points to the same conclusion. The forbidden scrolls were real, and they contained knowledge far exceeding that of their era. As new technology helps researchers peer deeper beneath the earth, many believe we are closer than ever to uncovering the archive and the extraordinary secrets preserved within its forbidden scrolls. Until that day arrives, the scrolls endure as one of history's greatest mysteries, a reminder that humanity's past may be far older, far more advanced, and far more astonishing than we ever imagined.
The cataclysm that erased the library from history. What if the greatest library ever built didn't burn in the way history told you? What if it vanished because it held knowledge humanity was never meant to keep? For centuries, whispers of an ancient archive, older than Alexandria, older than Babylon, have echoed through forgotten ruins, lost scrolls, and half-erased myths. Historians and explorers called it the primeval library, a legendary vault said to contain the earliest writings of humankind. But one mystery overshadows everything else: the sudden, total disappearance of this ancient institution, erased by a cataclysm so powerful that not even its location survived. This is the story of the library that vanished from history, and the cataclysm that ensured its secrets would never return. The library that preceded civilization. Long before classical empires rose, before Egypt built its first pyramid, a thriving coastal civilization existed along the ancient Mediterranean. Modern researchers have proposed many contenders: the Minoans, the Sea Peoples, early Proto-Semitic tribes, but none fit perfectly. What united them was a shared reference to a center of learning called Archaon, the place of first knowledge. Archaon was not a temple. It was not a palace. It was something far rarer, a sanctuary of ideas. Archaeological fragments suggest its archives held early astronomical charts, engineering diagrams centuries ahead of their time, medicinal formulas preserved on treated bark, records of natural disasters traced through the movements of stars, maps of coastlines that predate the last ice age. Many scholars later connected Archaon to Plato's hints about a civilization destroyed after misusing forbidden wisdom. Over time, Archaon's story intertwined with the broader myth of Atlantis, not because it was Atlantis, but because it preserved knowledge from cultures that predated recorded history. Yet if Archaon held such treasures, one question haunts every historian: how did it all disappear without a trace? Warning signs in stone and sky. Centuries after Archaon's founding, strange patterns began appearing in natural records. Priests and astronomers documented a sequence of unusually bright comets, rapid shifts in ocean tides, tremors that shook stone foundations, dead zones in the sea where fish floated to the surface, storms that formed too quickly to predict. Modern geologists now believe these may have been early signs of a tectonic chain reaction, one triggered by a combination of seismic instability and a sudden shift in global weather patterns. But ancient scholars, lacking modern science, interpreted them differently. They believed the world was warning them of an approaching collapse. Inside Archaon, its chief archivists debated whether to seal the library underground. Some suggested relocating critical texts to other regions, but the elders refused. Archaon was sacred land chosen by the ancestors,
Abandoning it would break the covenant of knowledge. In the end, their devotion became their downfall. The night the earth split open. According to reconstructed timelines, the cataclysm struck shortly after midsummer, likely around 1600 BCE, though some theories place it thousands of years earlier. Every ancient culture in the region recorded the same night in its own language. The sky screamed. The sea climbed the mountains. The earth opened its jaws. Fire rained from the black sun. Modern scientists point to a chain of violent events, a massive earthquake, a possible volcanic detonation, and a resulting tsunami. But survivors described something far more apocalyptic. The first shockwave shattered stone pillars in Archaon's upper halls. Walls that had stood for centuries cracked in an instant. Scroll vaults collapsed. Scribes fled as torches fell and shelves splintered. But the worst was yet to come. A second quake struck, stronger, deeper, catastrophic. The ground beneath Archaon liquefied. Entire buildings sank as if swallowed by the earth. Courtyards tore apart. Underground chambers flooded with boiling water forced upward from ruptured geothermal veins. Witness accounts say the night glowed red, as if the horizon were on fire. Then came the wave. A wall of water taller than any ship crashed through the valley where Archaon stood. It swept away every remaining structure, covering the ruins in silt, ash, shattered pottery, wooden splinters, and human debris. When the water finally retreated, nothing recognizable remained. A city of learning became a mud-drowned wasteland. The aftermath, a civilization silenced. The survivors, few and scattered, wandered into neighboring lands with stories so unbelievable that other cultures treated them as myths. They spoke of knowledge that predicted the stars, machines operated by water pressure and copper beers, medicinal scrolls that cured diseases unknown to other tribes, lost predictions of future floods and celestial cycles. But with Archaon gone, these claims became folklore. Generations later, scribes retold the tale as parables of human arrogance. Priests reshaped it into warnings about divine punishment. Storytellers blended it with older flood myths. By the time Plato wrote about Atlantis, Archaon had become a ghost, absorbed into a broader collective memory of civilizations erased by disaster. And with each retelling, the truth drifted further into legend. The vanishing of evidence. Why can't we find Archaon today? Because the cataclysm didn't just destroy it, it buried it under hundreds of feet of sediment. Underwater scans off the Mediterranean coast show anomalies that may be collapsed stone corridors. Inland, there are layers of mud deposits matching a massive flood that occurred far earlier than written history. Some researchers believe Archaon lies beneath these layers, sealed so deeply that even modern excavation would be near impossible. Others suggest something stranger, that migrating survivors intentionally hid or destroyed clues to prevent future generations from seeking the library's forbidden knowledge. Whether that was caution or fear, no one can say. The legacy of the lost library. Today, Archaon's story survives in fragments, in half-translated clay tablets, in myths of cities punished for wisdom, in sudden technological leaps that appear in ancient cultures, in unexplained maps showing land submerged for 10,000 years. Though the library vanished, its influence quietly shaped the world that followed. The cataclysm erased its physical form, but not the echo of its existence. Modern historians continue searching for evidence, driven by one haunting question. What knowledge was so powerful that history itself tried to bury it? Whether Archaon was real or symbolic, its disappearance stands as a reminder that civilizations rise, achieve brilliance, and fall not always because of their enemies, but sometimes because the earth itself reshapes their fate. And somewhere beneath centuries of sediment and silence, the remains of humanity's first great library may still be waiting to be discovered.
Modern expeditions and the search for the last Atlantean record. What if the final proof of Atlantis isn't buried in the past, but waiting right now beneath our oceans, deserts, and forgotten ruins? And what if modern explorers are closer than ever to uncovering the last surviving archive of that lost civilization? For centuries, Atlantis has remained humanity's greatest ghost, appearing in ancient texts, disappearing in shifting sands, and re-emerging every time new technology unlocks another part of our hidden past. Plato's words sparked the legend, but it is today's explorers, armed with satellites, deep-sea drones, and high-resolution ground scanners, who are pushing the mystery closer to the edge of truth. This is the astonishing story of modern expeditions searching for the last Atlantean record, a relic believed to be the final surviving archive of a civilization erased by catastrophe. The reawakening of an ancient search. The modern hunt for Atlantis began not with a map, but with a question scientists could no longer ignore. Why do so many ancient cultures share stories of a drowned, advanced civilization? From Egyptian Temple of Edfu inscriptions to Minoan frescoes, from Sumerian tablets to early South American myths, the same themes appear repeatedly. A mother civilization that taught early humans engineering, a powerful island kingdom destroyed in a single night, archives of knowledge hidden before the final disaster, survivors who carried fragments of wisdom to new lands. For centuries, researchers dismissed these stories as symbolic, but the more archaeologists uncovered unexplained ancient technologies and impossible early engineering feats, the more they began reconsidering the possibility of an earlier, unknown source. By the early 21st century, the hunt intensified. A new theory emerged. Atlantis may not have been a city, but a network of knowledge centers, and one last record may still exist. This theory inspired a wave of expeditions across oceans and continents. The Sahara discovery that changed everything. In 2023, a team of satellite archaeologists examining the Western Sahara identified circular geological formations resembling concentric rings, the kind Plato described. Known today as the Richat structure, the site had long been considered a natural formation, but modern satellite imaging revealed subsurface anomalies suggesting man-made foundations beneath layers of sand. Ground-penetrating radar confirmed the presence of rectangular cavities buried more than 40 feet below. One chamber showed unusually strong magnetic signatures, similar to libraries found in ancient temples. Was this the lost Atlantean archive? An international team rushed to the site, but excavation proved nearly impossible. Shifting dunes, unstable rock layers, and extreme temperatures halted progress. Still, core samples from the magnetic chamber revealed traces of melted limestone, fragments of processed copper, and a thin layer of ash consistent with massive ancient fire. To researchers, this was not proof of Atlantis, but it hinted that something older, advanced, and violently destroyed once stood in the region. And if one archive existed, others might survive. Beneath the Atlantic, drones in the deep. The theory that Atlantis lies in the Atlantic Ocean has always captivated explorers, but the depths remained unreachable until recently. In 2026, oceanographers from Woods Hole deployed autonomous drones capable of mapping trenches miles below the surface. During a sweep of the Azores Plateau, drones captured stunning images. Straight-edged stone platforms, perfect right-angle corridors, carved steps descending into the seabed. Natural formations rarely occur with such geometric precision. One drone discovered a massive stone slab partially buried in volcanic rock. Beneath it, sonar detected a large hollow chamber, unnatural in shape, sealed for thousands of years. Researchers named it the Azores Vault. But the vault remains inaccessible. It sits below a layer of hardened volcanic basalt, requiring drilling technology that does not yet exist. Still, its discovery strengthened the belief that a lost maritime civilization once occupied this region, and that a record might be preserved beneath miles of ocean. The Antarctic Enigma. While the Atlantic fascinated researchers, another team turned to a place almost no one expected: Antarctica. In 2019, under-ice radar used for climate studies detected grid-like patterns beneath the ice sheet. The formations resembled city blocks, rectangular, aligned with cardinal directions, and extending for nearly half a mile. At first, scientists assumed these were natural rock formations, but a later expedition uncovered something startling. Fragments of ancient pollen frozen in ice layers dating back tens of thousands of years, proving Antarctica was once warm, habitable land. Could a prehistoric civilization have lived there? New expeditions in 2024 and 2025 revealed more anomalies. Symmetrical foundations beneath the ice, buried elongated stones resembling obelisks, a massive, perfectly straight trench extending 700 meters. Some researchers proposed an extraordinary theory. A forgotten civilization may have built a knowledge repository in Antarctica before a sudden climate shift buried it forever. If true, this icy continent might hold the last untouched Atlantean record. The DNA of forgotten civilizations. As archaeologists searched the Earth, scientists began searching human DNA. Geneticists from MIT and Oxford launched a study comparing ancient genomes. They discovered unusual genetic clusters appearing simultaneously in Europe, North Africa, and South America around the same prehistoric period. These clusters hinted at a lost migratory group with advanced seafaring ability. These people appeared suddenly in the archaeological record, brought technologies earlier than surrounding cultures, then disappeared just as quickly. Researchers called them the Proto-Atlanteans. If they preserved libraries, temples, or archives, traces might remain in the places they migrated to. Caves of the Yucatan, islands of the Aegean, coasts of Morocco, mountains of Peru. And indeed, in Peru's Andes, explorers discovered stone blocks cut with precision impossible for the era, perhaps remnants left by survivors of a lost world. The search intensifies. The Global Atlantean Project. By the late 2020s, academic institutions formed a coalition called the Global Atlantean Project, or GAP, a unified mission to locate the final record of the Atlantis-era civilization. Using AI-enhanced satellite imaging, quantum magnetic subsurface mapping, deep-sea exploration robots, 3D scanning of undocumented ruins, and analysis of ancient climate data, GAP identified more than 40 potential sites across 4 continents. At each site, researchers discovered clues suggesting a network of knowledge centers identical in architecture, purpose, and method. These discoveries revived a long-dismissed theory. Atlantis was not one city. It was a civilization with outposts across the ancient world. If even one outpost preserved its master archive, It would be the last Atlantean record.
The closest encounter yet. In 2029, an expedition in southern Spain made the most promising discovery yet. Beneath the mud layers of Doñana National Park, an area long suspected to be connected to Atlantis, ground scanners detected an underground chamber roughly 120 feet long. The chamber's walls appeared reinforced with a material resembling geopolymer concrete, an advanced mixture not officially invented until the 20th century. Inside, thermal imaging revealed sealed compartments. This chamber is now believed to be the closest humanity has come to finding the last Atlantean record. Excavation is ongoing, but preliminary probes detected carved symbols that do not match any known ancient script, metal alloys containing unusual ratios of nickel and copper, a circular tablet made of a stone not native to the region. If this chamber truly contains an Atlantean archive, it will rewrite the story of human civilization forever. The mystery continues. Today, the search is more intense, more technological, and more ambitious than ever before. Each discovery, from Sahara anomalies to Antarctic foundations, adds another piece to a puzzle older than recorded history. Modern expeditions have not yet uncovered the complete Atlantean record, but they have uncovered something equally powerful: evidence, patterns, architecture, technology, migration, clues. Enough to suggest that a forgotten civilization once walked this earth, advanced, curious, and tragically destroyed. The final record may still lie hidden, beneath an ocean ridge, under a desert dune, inside an Antarctic vault of ice, or sealed within a Spanish chamber waiting to be opened. And when it is finally found, it will answer the question that has haunted explorers for centuries. Who were the people of Atlantis, and what wisdom did they leave behind for us to rediscover?